Right, what have we got here? Now, this is a typical power setup for an electric model airplane. You've got your motor here. This is a motor. This is actually in 101 pieces just now because it's a broken bit, but you can see it's got magnets and coils and all sorts of things on there. And this here is your receiver, and this here is the brushless speed controller. Now this is a brushless motor, and you'll probably notice that there's two wires going in from the battery. The battery goes on the end of that on a T connector. This is then hooked up. Your speed controller, this speed controller here, which you'll probably see says 40 amps, 3 cells on it, is hooked up to your throttle channel on your receiver, which is there. And then it comes through there, it does all sort of electronic jiggery pokery, and it comes out in 3 cables, and each cable has an AC phase in it. It's like AC current, so it's an AC motor, and it doesn't it's got, as you can see there, there's magnets around the outside of the motor. That motor, that goes on there like that, and there's a shaft goes through there, and your propeller sits on the shaft that goes through there. So that's a basic power setup. Most motors are, sometimes you'll have a separate power supply to power. Everything is powered, all your servos and everything are powered off the speed controller via the throttle cable. Bigger motors, you need a separate battery to power everything off, but that's a basic electric power setup. Okay, so we'll do a wee bit on transmitters for the next section. Right, that'll do us now. Hello there. Now, I'm going to show you how to set up a model on a Spektrum transmitter. Now this is a fairly straightforward setup, and but it'll go through things that you need to know to set up any sort of transmitter. So what I've got just now, it's showing on model 8, so I'll just go to model select. We'll make it model 7. And we'll just go to the main. Right, that's model 7. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to bind this receiver to model 7. So let me just zoom out. Right, I'll just turn this off, flick the bind switch, and that's now bound to model 7. Right, now what do I need to set up? Right, let me just zoom into the display again. Right, now what do we need to set up? Right, model select, we've got that. do that. Travel adjustment, sub trim, flaps, mix, differential, setup list, model type. We want a model type to be an airplane. Okay. Back to my list. We'll leave changing the name till whenever. Now, let's say wingtail mix is alright. That's alright. Timer, range check, power setting. Go back to adjust list. I'm getting myself in a knot. Right, we'll go to DR Expo. Right. Now, this is where you set up your throws, and there's another thing that you can set up here is Expo as well. Now I'll explain exactly what Expo is, but it generally, this is how to set up your elevators and elevons and rudder. Right. Okay. Right, I will just end things there just now. And I'll just connect up everything on the actual on the aircraft. Now you'll see on this little receiver that it's all marked out for you. There's gear, rudder, elevator, aileron, throttle. So it's fairly straightforward where you plug everything in, which I will do now on the model. Right, that's that little receiver now connected up to the Venus with all the wires going to the right place. What we'll do now is I'll set all the control throws, and that way you can see how things are meant to operate. Okay. Right, that's me connected everything up, and the battery's in and there's powers on, so all the control surface should move. Right, I'm pulling back on the elevator there, and that's giving me 100% up, 100% down. That's me turning on the rudder. Now the control throws are really far too much. And are they operating in the right direction? Right, let's just see. Yes, that's operating in the right direction. Up is up, down is down. Rudder. That's going the right way. That's going the right way. So I won't have to reverse anything or any of the controls. It's actually worked out all right. Let's just see where that's going. Yeah, what I'm doing just now is I'm checking which way the controls are going and making sure that what I'm doing on the actual controller, which is the controller here, when I move one way that way, yeah, it pushes the wing down. Right. The rudder, Yes, that goes the right way. Yeah, that goes the right way. I'm not touching the motor because that's fired up now. You should really do this with the prop removed. But for demonstration purposes, I'm just doing this. Now you can see these control movements are tremendous. You're never going to need that much control movement. So to actually set it to the recommended limits, you must adjust the actual transmitter. So I'll go through how you adjust these controls. Everything's moving in the right direction, nothing needs reversed. There's probably a wee bit of trimming to be done, but we'll do that as we go through. Right, I'll just show you how to set things up on this transmitter. Right, on your model adjust list, you'll come across something called DRExpo, which is dual rate and exponential. We'll just click on that. Now here we have the controls that basically control your throws, and everything's set to 100% just now, which is far too much for this model. So what I'll do, I'll change the elevators down to about 50%. So as you can see, it's going down to, let's take that down to 50%. What you do is you adjust this to give you the exact throw up and down on your elevators and things. Right, so I've set that to 50. Now if I flick a switch on this, you'll see that is now a dual rate. That is active. So I can switch between a dual rate. When I switch to dual rate, that goes back to 100%. But I don't need that, I need about 50%. I also need something called exponential in it. Now, on this I would set it to an exponential of 50%. Now I'll explain exponential what it actually is, but you'll have to actually, I'll show you just by doing it what happens. I'll put this on 50%. This affects how the actual control surfaces move, and 50% positive expo is an ideal starting point. Right, let's go on to the elevator. Well, the elevator was a tremendous amount, so I'll knock that down to about 50% as well. I'll knock that down to about 50%. I'll put expo in that. Now, I'll explain what expo is once I've set this machine up. Right, set that to 50 as well. And rudder you can leave quite powerful, because it's, if you want to do the manoeuvres, I'll set that to about 90. And again, I'll put an expo of 50% in. Right. Okay, so that's me set up the throws on all these controls, and they should be a little less severe than when we set them up beforehand. So that's setting them up. Right, let's go back onto the list. Travel adjustments, sub trim. Now, there's something. You've got an elevator, you've got a rudder. Now I'm looking at the rudder on my aeroplane just now, and it's slightly out. I'll just show you, if you give me a second, how far out that is. Right, see how this rudder is sitting slightly off. Now I can physically adjust that, or I can go into a menu called sub trim and actually trim that out. So what I'll do, I've come up a menu called sub trim. I'll trim it out, and just let's go to the rudder. See, I'm going the wrong way now. And that's me trimmed that out. And there you see on the control, the rudder sub trim. I've trimmed it to 42, and that's straightened that off. Now, let's have a look at a timer. I'll see what the timer's set on here. Now this is, we'll just come out of this. Right, we'll go into setup list, model type, model name we'll do in a second. Reverse, that's a handy thing there. If you needed to, if you need to reverse any control surface, that's your controls to reverse things there. But we don't need to reverse everything. Everything was fine on that, so it was just a matter of doing it. Right. Throttle cut, wing tail mix, timer, right, what's the timer? Right, it's a 6 minute, it's been set to 6 minutes, and it's on a throttle cut switch. Now you can set these timers to run from something like your throttle switch. On Futabas I have the timers running from the actual throttle. From here, as soon as I move that up, the timer starts running, and it stops running when you shut it down. That's one of the things. This is on a throttle cut switch, which is that switch there. That's the timer for that. So we'll sleeve that. You can change the timer. We'll change it. 6, 7, no. We'll leave it to 6. Now I can change the throttle cut switch. That could go to inhibit. No, it could go into the trainer switch. But we'll leave it on the throttle cut switch. So that would mean every time I started off, I would have to press that throttle cut switch to start my timer. And it usually resets when you turn the whole controller on and off. Right. Right. Let's go and have a look at the model and see what's happened to the throws after I've adjusted the throws. Right, I'll just shut this down just a minute. Right, this is our Venus, which is quite a good wee airplane for showing you things on. Right, I've adjusted everything, so the elevator, that's still a tremendous amount of lift on the elevator. The ailerons, that's a tremendous amount of movement on them. The rudder, well, you need quite a bit of movement on the rudder. I could quite happily reduce them throws, but this is a kind of 3D model, so you can get away with quite large throws on it. But I would reduce them throws by a fair amount. In fact, what I'll do is I'll get out the manual and see what the recommended throws are on this. But that's how you set up the throws. You go into DR Expo and you can adjust things, which I think I'll adjust that even less. This is just, I'm just setting this up so you can see how it works. Right. I think I'll change them. I think I'll tone that down an awful lot more. Right. So that's what I've set my aileron and elevator to. Now the rudder, I think I can drop to about 50% as well, so I'll drop that to 50%. Let's just see. Yeah, that's a bit more. That's a bit better. Okay, right. I'll just go through a sub-trim lay again. I'll just sub-trim the ailerons. Right, I'll give them a wee bit sub-trim. Right, that's okay. So there you see some of the things you've got to go through to set up a model. Now let's just go back to DR Expo and I'll explain to you what Right, DR Expo. Why have I got this 50% in? And what is it? It's basically how one of the, or how the controls move. If you have positive expo on your control, it will move in a certain manner. And I'll just show you on the actual model what kind of happens. Just give me a second. Right, now how does exponential work? Well, it basically changes the way in which the control surface moves. If I put my finger on the rudder and move like that, you'll see it moves quite a little bit, and then when I go more, it moves quite a lot. So it's controlling the movement around about that centre point. controls, you don't get much movement, and you get a bit more, and then a bit more, and then it goes the full way away. Now if you had negative expo in that, you'd just get a massive movement all the time. Positive expo gives you a soft movement about the centre. It doesn't move that much around about the centre, and then it moves quite a lot. So it makes your movement around the centre a lot smoother. That's the best way I can explain to you expo, that it's controlling how that control surface moves and the manner in which it moves. It'll move a little bit to begin with. I moved my control stick quite a lot to get that little bit of movement, and then it goes quite a lot. So that's basically how it works. But it makes your flying an awful lot smoother if you're using expo. It enables you, if you have shaky fingers, see, I can shake that around and it's not moving that much. Now if that had no expo in it, it would just going like this all over the shop. But with expo, it calms it down. That's the best explanation of expo I can give you. So here endeth the lesson. I hope that helps in setting up a radio. All radios are slightly different, and the radio I've used for this is, we'll just swing it around and focus it up. Is a Spektrum radio. But to set up a Futaba, things are slightly different with a Futaba. You have to, they talk about your expo is set up negatively. Your expo is a negative expo, and you have to, when you set up an electric motor on a Futaba, you have to reverse the throttle control. So that's one of the little idiosyncrasies of a Futaba. This, as I say, is a Spektrum, and it's fairly straightforward to set up. But you'll have to deal with the same things on all of them. You have to set up expo, you have to set up sub trims, you have to. They all talk about the same thing, and they all have to be set up in a similar way. On something like a Futaba, these switches that we see here can all be reassigned. You can totally customize your switches and everything. These are dedicated switches, so you'll probably see that switching to, if you can see that in the bottom left hand corner, you can see it going from one setting to the other as a flick a switch. Right. Okay, that's setting up transmitters. We'll have another go at something else.